Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
The reDiscovery podcast is an IVM production. If you like this show, also check out Geek Fruit, a show with fellow television geeks, Tejas, Jishnu and Dinkar, as they discuss the world of science fiction and nerd culture.
In 2015, Ambika and Hoshner quit their jobs and set out to rediscover the country through planes, trains, and rickety old buses. What started as a break has now grown into a life of travel and discovery. On this podcast, they take you through the highlights of their journey. This is the reDiscovery Podcast.
Welcome to Season 2 of the reDiscovery Podcast.
We're back.
In this season, we're going to start with a very special episode and talk about how we travel on 2,500 rupees a day, which is our budget. So oftentimes we get asked how we plan our travels, how do we afford to travel so extensively, and doesn't it cost us a lot? And in the first season, we talked a lot about the cool places that we visited that you can also visit. But the question is, how do we do it? And so we're here to tell you that travel, especially in India, need not be as expensive as you think it needs to be. Yeah. And if you plan well, if you're willing to broaden your horizons a little bit, change your mindset, travel can be pretty affordable. You can travel inexpensively in different formats.
And not necessarily slum it either.
Yeah, you don't have to do it as cheap as we do it. You can up your budget a little bit. But it is possible to see some really amazing, cool things in this country on our budget, which is 2,500 a day, which includes everything.
So initially when we started doing this, it wasn't sort of a long-term plan. It was a 1-year sabbatical. We'd taken time off from work. So when we were planning how much we should really spend on it, we sort of said, 5,000 rupees a day sounds reasonable, 6,000 rupees a day. In the end, we live in Bombay, we vacation, and that seemed like a very good number if you're vacationing.
That's like a vacation kind of budget.
But when we started doing the math, we realized very soon that 5,000 rupees wouldn't get us very far.
And for very long.
Yes. So we sort of tried to rework that a little bit, and we said, okay, 5,000, let's cut it by half. So we reached a number of 2,500. It wasn't very scientific, but it seemed like a reasonable sort of number, not too high, not too low, to sort of try and do this on. Now at 2,500 rupees a day, we then sort of try to break it up into the three largest really cost components when you travel, which is accommodation, food, and transportation. And we're going to take each one of them and show you how we sort of try to scrunch it to make it fit in that sort of a budget.
Yeah, so a budget like this might seem kind of like a constraint, but it's not. And as we've learned, it opens up a whole new set of possibilities. It's taken us to places. We've met people that we wouldn't normally have interacted with. We've stayed in places that we wouldn't have thought we would ever stay in.
Yeah.
We've really stretched the rupee as far as possible. And I think the great part about travel in India is that you can do this.
And we've challenged ourselves a little bit to do it, and it's sort of opened our own horizons.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? At the end of the day, we've got a bunch of cool stories to tell. So that's the added benefit.
We're still here.
On 2,500 a day. So, one of the key parts of travel is where are you going to stay, right? And so for our accommodation, we generally try and do it between like 800 to 1,000, 1,100. Sometimes we'll go up a little bit more depending on where we are, slightly more busier, bigger cities are more expensive.
Smaller towns tend to be cheaper. So we sort of plan it out. And our 2,500 rupees is not really a stringent daily budget. It's something we try to achieve over a period of time when you average it out. Some days will be more expensive, some days will be cheaper depending on where you are.
Right.
And we sort of work it out that way.
So with the accommodation, we try not to spend too much when it is possible to spend less. Obviously now homestays seem like a great option for this, and it is. In some places we've done homestays which have cost us 1,100 rupees. Some are more, some are less, and we love homestays. But homestays are not always the best option because in India the homestay setup isn't as extensive as it is in certain other countries.
You won't find homestays everywhere, and increasingly homestays is becoming sort of a word for boutique little hotels.
Yeah.
And therefore that cost is not a homestay cost, but it's starting to move upwards. But you can still find great deals everywhere. You just have to look a little harder.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit smart about these things. So what we do, especially in like smaller towns and stuff, is target the local guest houses or the lodges, which sounds a bit shady. I mean, if you think about like, lodge next to the railway station or the bus station, but they're not actually as bad as we imagine. And in the beginning, we were like, oh no, how can we stay in a place that costs 600 rupees a night? I mean, that sounds shady, but it's not at all. We've stayed in plenty of them.
What we normally do is we if you're coming into a place where you're going to spend 3 or 4 days, we try to book one night in advance, so that we have a place to go with our backpacks in the evening, and the next day we normally try and scout and see what we can find around in the area which we want to stay in. And usually you will find that there is a surprisingly wide range of places available even in a sub-1,000 rupee budget, and which are not all bad. I mean, you'll find obviously the occasional terrible, rat-infested place which you need to avoid.
Yes, of course.
But you'll find these great little places, and
they're basic. This is not luxury in any way at all. But they're clean. They'll have clean sheets. They'll have clean bathrooms. Almost every single place in India will have a guy who, if they don't have a restaurant on the premise, will make sure you get some food. You will get tea always. So, I mean, your basics are always taken care of. And the best part about these small little places is they're usually locally run. And the guys over there, they know their town or their region like nobody else.
Right.
So they will lead you. And once they've understood what we are trying to do, that we are on this project to travel and discover, they've pointed us out in some amazing direction. We've explored the little alleyways that you might not have explored otherwise.
Yeah, I've seen stuff which is not on the regular tourist map, got into things that you normally won't find. You will find, the locals will always tell you the best places to eat.
Yeah.
And these don't necessarily need to be small hotels. They could be sort of family-run establishments, which are always much nicer and they're more homely to stay in. When you're away from home for a long period of time, these always feel nicer to stay in.
Right.
And it's not like you'll find these only in, in the big cities or something. You'll find them only in the offbeat places. You'll find them also in fairly touristy places. So, for example, we found a lovely hotel in Khajuraho, which was 5 minutes away from, the main western group of temples. And we paid all of 600 rupees for it. And it was a beautiful place. It was green, and had a lot of seating outside where you could chill and
a lot of
book,
plants.
A lot of plants.
There are these little ponds and pools of water.
With fish and stuff.
Yeah.
Not a 600 rupee kind of place.
Not at all. And from the outside, it just looked like any nameless, faceless kind of hotel. But once we walked in, we're like, oh wow, this is actually, it's serene, it's quiet, it's pretty cool in there. And it's good to go and check out a place before you book something.
We use these hotel booking apps extensively, things like your Make My Trip, Clear Trip, and Go Ibibo, because there usually will be a deal, and when you use these apps more and more, they start throwing more and more deals at you. And so what we'll do is we'll go to a place, and if we like the place, we'll ask the guy how much the room costs, and then we'll check the price online, And usually it's cheaper online, and the guy is most happy to let us book it online because he gets full room rent from a booking.com or from a Make My Trip, whilst you pay the discounted rate. So it's great. It works for everyone.
So great. The other good part, at least the thing that we love about these kind of places to stay, is that you meet a whole host of people that you might not have met. I mean, I remember the lodge that we stayed at in Orcha in MP. I mean, that room cost us 400 rupees. And I don't think, had we been on this travel, we would ever have thought of staying in a 400 rupee lodge in a fairly touristy little town. I mean, this is not a shack in Goa where you might still think about paying something so little, but this is a tourist and this is a proper town. But it was this husband and wife and their 2 little kids, and It was an old house, and he just sort of converted all the rooms into small little rooms, and they were all 400 rupees. And it was great because the lady of the house cooked us whatever lunch we wanted.
Yeah, it was clean, it was comfortable, it had attached bathrooms, it had a geyser. I mean...
Yeah, what else do you need?
Once we have those 3 or 4 tick marks...
The geyser is key for Hoshna.
Geyser is key for me, the clean bathroom is key for Ambika.
Yeah.
And the comfortable bed is key for us both.
Yeah. so clean
as long
sheets.
As you have those things in place, I mean, nothing else really matters too much.
Right. And you know, the guy, he was really helpful because he told us about, you know, cool little legends from the town. He pointed us in directions to go and walk around and explore. He told us about photo opportunities, which we might not have known about had we been in a more expensive, fancier hotel.
Yeah, and a lot of these places tend to be backpacker haunts. So you meet a lot of interesting people, I mean, and who will tell you that, oh, you know, check this out, check that out. So you get a lot of travel tips. For example, in Nagaland, in Kohima, we stayed in a place called Morung Lodge. And that was so fortuitous for us. It cost, I think, 1,000 rupees a day with
breakfast.
With breakfast. And we were earlier staying in a hotel which was much more expensive when we moved to this one. But the lady who ran the hotel had such an extensive network of contacts around Nagaland, and Nagaland is not a place that you'll find a lot of information about online. So you really depend on whatever information you can get on the ground. And she had this massive network of contacts, and she set us up in so many different places around the state, so many small homestays, so many villages, and we literally planned our 3-week trip to Nagaland sitting with this lady in her lodge. And the moment you're staying at under 1,000 rupees a day, it opens up a lot of other options for you in terms of you save that money to spend elsewhere.
On food.
Which
we love.
And so you need to sort of be open to that idea and not say that, oh wow, this place is really cheap, it must be bad.
Right. And I think that's the idea, is that really cheap is not necessarily bad.
Yeah. It could be, but not
it could be. I mean, yes. I mean, it's not all rosy. We have had a couple of times when we've booked a place, we've gotten there and we're like, we can't stay here. But then there is the option of moving, so that's always available. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Are you confused about your future education options?
Not sure about whether you should be doing an MBA?
Or if design school is the right fit for you?
Are you worried about how you would finance your education?
Find answers to this and a lot more education-related topics on this podcast.
Hi, my name is Akhil Daswani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of OnCourse.
Hi, my name is Alisha Mashruwala. I'm the CEO and co-founder of OnCourse.
And we both are your co-hosts for the OnCourse podcast. Tune in every Monday on the IVM podcast app or any other podcast app you may like.
Welcome back to the reDiscovery podcast. Now, the other part where people spend the most amount of money, which we actually spend the least amount on, is transport.
Yeah, so transport is a biggie, obviously. Just getting to a place is expensive usually because you're flying there. And that's obviously something that you need to do if you have time constraints. But very often, instead of taking a flight, you can take an overnight train to get somewhere, and you'll effectively not lose any time, but you'll cut your cost tremendously. So in the last 2 years, we've taken very few flights, probably about maybe 10-12 flights across 2 years of travel.
Where it's impossible to take a train.
Or you don't want to sit for 45 hours when you're coming back from Patna to Bombay. So you take a flight, which is fine, I think. And but besides that, we use public transport extensively, and we avoid cabs like the plague.
Yeah, I don't think we've hardly taken a cab to go from point A to point B at all.
Yeah, we've taken shared sumos, in places where shared sumos are available, but, that's like $100 a seat.
Or like the shared magic in Assam.
Shared magic, yeah.
Which is a very unique vehicle that I think is only in Assam.
No, is there another place?
Okay,
also.
fine. But this magic is a wonderful little bit of...
Yeah, it's basically something between a Maruti van and a tempo traveler.
It's an overgrown Maruti van, I think. And then they shove like 15 people in there, and then they see us with our big backpacks and they're like, okay, fine, we'll give you an extra seat.
So we travel extensively by public transportation. When we were in South India, which was our first major leg, we took, I think, 60 buses.
Yeah, I think we calculated 60 buses.
In 2 months of
over
travel.
4
and
states.
These were all ST buses. And it's really cheap. It's like, an ST bus ticket will cost you like $30 to $50. And like Ambika said, you will get a bus to anywhere. You might have to change one bus occasionally. And in South India, specifically when we travel a lot by ST bus, the bus network was really efficient.
Yeah, and everybody's really nice and helpful. I mean, I think the conductors there were more than happy to help us switch buses, especially like in a place like Kerala where we couldn't read the signs. I mean, Tamil Nadu wasn't a problem for us because I speak and can read Tamil. But in Kerala, we couldn't read the signs. And the bus conductor was like, okay, fine, you need to switch this bus in this station.
Yeah, he literally take you out of the bus, put you into the other bus, tell the other conductor ki unko yahan utarna hai, all in Mallu.
Yeah.
And then, and send us on our way. And not only was it cheap and efficient, but it was also fairly comfortable and also fairly fun, which we found surprising.
Right, because we had some great experience. I mean, we've met like interesting people because the buses are full of everyday people, right? I mean, you have the school kids and the teachers, there is the villagers, the sales guy from the town, there's the shop owners, people going home after their day of Mazduri. So everybody's on that bus, and then there's these two people, we are on this bus with these
totally stick out like a sore thumb
with our ginormous backpacks, and everyone's really curious about us, and that's the thing about India, right? Everyone's really curious, and it's okay to be curious. So we are curious about them and they are about us, and then people are happy to chat with us, and they're like, oh, you're going here, why don't you look at this place, and why don't you get off and take this bus and detour here, and why don't you eat this, and you get a lot of these like interesting tips that you are not going to find in any book or on any blog.
And I think they're very happy that you're sort of exploring their neck of the woods, so they're always very nice. And we usually are very comfortable in buses because people will give us that space.
Yeah, they're like,
because they're not from there.
Yeah. Then they think Oshna's a foreigner also sometimes, especially in the south. So we get that little bit of elbow room, which is great. And so we travel on local transport, ST buses, 2S trains. I mean, we've taken all kinds of transport from the Magic. We've even taken horse carts because in a place called Rajgir in Bihar, which is near Nalanda, the only mode of transport in that town is horse cart.
Yeah, the horse cart is like the local auto.
Yeah.
There's no auto.
There's no auto, there's no cycle, nothing. It's a monopoly of horse carts. You just like hop into your horse cart and you get off like 1 kilometer later. It's like a bus.
Yeah, and besides the bus, I mean, we try and take buses which, journeys which are up to 3 hours or maybe 4 hours, not more than that. For journeys that are longer than that, we prefer to take the train. And
a little more comfortable.
There's a plethora of these sort of local trains that are there, which ply distances of maybe 400, 500, 600 kilometers, and you can buy these tickets on the spot and hop onto a train, and they're largely unreserved trains, and the whole train is unreserved, so it's not like you're sitting in that one unreserved compartment with 50 million other people. It's very comfortable. You'll get a place to sit, you'll sit very peacefully, and you'll get off very comfortably 3 hours, 4 hours later at a stop.
Yeah, we also use the IRCTC app
very
extensively, and it is quite easy to book a train ticket in the last minute.
Yeah, I mean, we've booked a lot of trains, a week or 10 days in advance.
Yeah, or sometimes even for the next day. And
there's a perception that you will never get train tickets unless you book a month in advance. Not true. You get a lot of train tickets, a lot of places.
Yeah, so we try and save as much as possible on the transport. I think on an average, if there's no major local transport, like the autos in a city or something, I don't think we spend more than like 300 rupees on transport.
Just to give you an idea of what kind of money you can save if you take things like ST buses. In Nagaland, we were going from a place called Mokokchung to another place called Mon. It was about 250 kilometers, but pretty terrible roads. And it happened at that time when we were traveling, the share autos were sort of, shared sumos were sold out because it was Durga Puja, and so there was a lot of rush. And we asked how much it would be to book a private taxi, and it was like 13,500 rupees. So what we ended up doing is we ended up taking 3 or 4 different modes of transport. So we took a shared sumo into Assam.
So we came down from Nagaland into Assam.
Then we took a bus. Then we took another bus. In the middle of that, we took one of these magic auto /
For
trains.
sure there was a magic involved somewhere.
And 3 or 4 modes of transport. It took us all day to do that journey. It would have taken us all day anyway, even in that private cab. And we would have spent for both of us put together less than 700 rupees as compared to the 13,000 rupees that it would have cost us to book a taxi.
Yeah, so public transport, way cheaper. And I mean, in a place like Nagaland and even in Meghalaya and lots of other places, people, if they realize that you're from outside and you're exploring their region, will always feed you. This we have realized. We have been fed a lot. Fruit,
People would
sweet.
randomly get off the bus, buy us fruits and give us.
Yeah, we didn't even realize that that's what they're doing.
Please take fruit.
So it's nice. So that's a little added bonus, and it's a great way to sort of see the countryside.
At a very local sort of level, you feel like you're really traveling with the people.
Yeah, and India is beautiful. So why not take a slow bus, plod along, and get from point A to point B? So we spend very little on transport. We spend as little as we need to on accommodation. So that leaves us the bulk of our money to spend on the thing that we love the most, which I think you would have realized in our season 1, because every single podcast probably involved a great amount of all the food that we ate. At least this is what I've been told, is that there was very few podcasts which didn't tell you what we ate. Now we love food and all kinds of food, and we love trying out new food, and what better place than in India, where you go from Punjab to Gujarat to Meghalaya to UP, down to Tamil Nadu to Chettinad. You will get a variety of food, and so everything has to be eaten and everything must be tried, and so that's what we do. And one great way of saving some amount of money on food as you go is to eat all the street food that's on offer.
Yeah, so we eat a lot of street food. We eat a lot of fruit. So especially when we're traveling, if we're traveling by bus, a lot of time we're traveling in the day. So then our lunch will consist of some oranges and some apples and stuff like that.
And Mari biscuit.
And Mari biscuit. Ambika cannot live without Mari biscuit.
I have found a newfound love for Mari biscuit.
But even if we are not traveling, and if we are in the nameless, faceless hotels which we sometimes stay in, we try to avoid eating there, because the food there tends to be typical. Whether you're in the north, south, east, west of India, you will get the same palak paneer,
and
you'll
dal.
get the same gobi, you'll get the same dal, and it tastes the same. It's like there's one masala that is sold all over the country which they put in this stuff.
I think it's called like Maharaja masala or something, and lijjat papad. Everybody has lijjat papad.
And it just gets really monotonous, and even in that small hotel, a regular dish will be like $150
at least.
But if I go out on the road and eat, I can eat much better for $150. So, for example, in a place like Bhopal, we discovered this thing called the bun kebab in the old area of the city.
So good, so good.
That's like a Indianized, just to explain it in simple terms, it's like a little Indianized burger, like a mutton patty in between some vada pav, or it's like a non-veg vada pav, mutton vada pav, so to
much
speak.
Better.
And
with a little bit of chutney and onions, if you want the chutney and onions.
And it costs like all of $10.
Yeah, so $10, you have a couple of kebabs, and then you go on your way exploring the monuments or checking out the old city in Bhopal. And it's a great little snack, and for me it was like a full meal, but for Hoshna I think it was like a little bit of a snack. But it's yummy, it's local, and it's economical. Now, there are some parts of the country where, things are a little bit more expensive, food is a little bit more expensive, but then you balance it out with other things.
So South India, for example, is possible to eat good food really cheap.
Yeah, you go to a local roadside eatery and you'll get a plate of idlis, for example, for like $40 or $60, and it's filling and healthier.
You'll get a full thali for $100. The north is typically slightly more oily food, some slightly heavier food.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little more careful about how you eat, especially when you're traveling. Like we travel extensively, you got to watch what you eat as well.
Yeah, on the bus, because there's no bathrooms on the bus.
Yeah, but we found some really interesting stuff, right? Like in a place like MP, we found these mawa jalebis.
In Burhanpur.
In a town called Burhanpur, which most people haven't heard of.
Which is, by the way, near the Maharashtra border in southern MP.
Yeah, it's basically jalebis made of khoya, of mawa. So it's made the same way as a jalebi, deep fried, but with mawa instead of whatever it is that they use in jalebis.
Yeah, so if you're a
sweetenado
and love all Indian sweets like Hoshna, then a mawa jalebi is something I think you have to try.
It's at the top of the sweet food chain, I think.
Yes, and it's only available in Burhanpur. And apparently one guy from Burhanpur has made his way to Bombay and set up shop somewhere on Muhammad Ali Road. We haven't yet found him, but if we do, we'll definitely let you guys know. So things like that. When you're in Punjab, you drink a big glass of lassi, and that really fills you up, and it's yummy, and then you keep going. And a big glass of lassi is not expensive at all. Or you eat a kulcha and then you keep going. So there's lots of interesting food on offer, and so obviously we save money by eating cheap in sometimes. Sometimes we splurge because, there's a great meal to be had somewhere, and that's an experience we don't usually want to miss out on. So then you save money in other parts.
Yeah, so overall we try to fit our budget in that way. We spend about 800 to 1200 on stay. We spend about 300 to 500 on transportation, and we spend about whatever's left on food, which is usually about 800 to $1,000 on food.
Yeah, and this is all for the both of us. It's not 2.5.
Yeah, food sometimes works out a little bit more difficult because,
Yeah, there's a lot of negotiation that happens.
I don't want to eat rice, I don't want to eat noodles, that kind of conversation is happening all the time, and I don't want to eat sabji.
Yeah, and then I don't always want to eat butter chicken or tandoori chicken. So we've...
So it's best to head out and then, have 10 options which you can all eat what everyone wants to eat.
Well, the one thing we've realized we do like and can stand a lot of, apparently, is palak paneer. So there a lot of that has been eaten. I mean, there's lots of little other ways you can save money while you're on the go. One thing we do use is a live straw, which is a bottle with a filter in it. So we don't buy water.
Yeah, we don't buy bottled water
at all. So, little bit for the environment without the plastic. And we don't spend money. Otherwise, I mean, for the both of us, if we were to keep buying water, that would be at least like 300 rupees a day. And sometimes when it's really hot, you end up drinking more water.
It will be 200 rupees a day.
Well,
even
one bottle of water is like
drink.
20 rupees.
So are you drinking 10 bottles a day?
Between the two, okay, maybe not that much, but whatever. You save your little bit, all that little bit adds up.
You save a fair bit and you save a lot of plastic, which is good.
Listen, all the water that we don't drink and the money we have saved on that means we can buy more dairy milk.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So any little money that gets saved at the end of the day or the end of like 3-4 days, we are buying dairy milk and all the little non-essential, what have now become for us luxury items when we're on the go. So, I mean, the other way we try and save money, like Hoshna said, is you use the apps, you look for deals and all of that. It really helps when you're going...
Yeah, I mean, laundry. We save money on laundry also by not giving it to the hotel, by doing it ourselves.
Yeah, which is horrible sometimes.
We absolutely can't do it ourselves, and we head out, we find a local dhobi and we give it to him because that's usually 1/4 the cost of what a hotel will charge you.
Always. Yeah, so I mean, travel in India on the cheap can be really very interesting. It's very fun. There's a lot of experiences to be had. Obviously, you don't have to do it on 2,500, or if you split it up, even less per day. Up your budget a little bit, but try and do like these little things that will definitely open up the country to you in a whole different kind of format. So we definitely recommend trying to do a little bit of offbeat, inexpensive travel. That's it for this episode. So we hope you enjoy season 2, which is full of a whole new set of experiences and ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. And in the meanwhile, you check out our stories on our blog at www.reDiscoveryproject.com. And you can follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. So that's it for us today. Thanks for listening.
Happy travels. So the Himalayan passes have opened, and on the next episode, we're going to talk to you about planning your perfect Ladakh trip with a very special guest.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out
IVM Podcasts
to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. It'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.